Before starting with the story, I would like to send a big greeting to all the truckers in our country, who thanks to their dedication and effort, always we can count with the products basic and essential, that allow us to lead in life moderately comfortable. Without further what to say, share the video, leave a like and a comment. And if you have any story you would like to share, you can leave it in the comments. Now yes, let's start with today's story. In my life, there were only 2 occasions in which I experienced something, which we could call paranormal. I am a truck driver, and these events happened to me on the route. They were 2 moments unforgettable, which showed me that many times, certain things happen to us that exceed our understanding. My name is Alexander. I was born and raised in Arkansas. But, for more than 20 years, I have lived together to my family in the city of Michigan. We moved here for 2 main reasons. One was for the tranquility, and the other for an improvement in my work. Here was where I began to make trips to different parts of the country as a truck driver. And it was, on one occasion, that while I was heading towards the city of St. Ignace, I lived one of the moments more strangest. I left the city of Detroit with the truck loaded, and after almost 190 miles I did what I always did. On Highway Interstate 75, I detoured towards a small town called Gaylord, which is on the way to St. Ignace. In this city it is my habit to stay at the house of a friend and colleague. I want to clarify that I did this many times in my 20 years as a truck driver. Throughout my life I have heard thousands of stories about paranormal encounters on the highway. But, personally I have never had those types of experiences. And allow me to highlight that I have traveled at all types of schedules and through all types of places. But to me, until that then nothing had ever happened to me. On that occasion I was going quite late. Normally I tried to get to the city of Gaylord around 6 or 7 in the afternoon, so I could have dinner and chat a little with my friend. After of this and rest for a couple of hours, get on the truck again and resume the journey to my destination. But it was already 8:30 at night and I was still on the trip. I remember perfectly, because my friend called me to find out where I was. I responded saying that I was close, approximately 20 miles away.
I swear that nowadays, remembering this makes me a little nervous because it was something impressive. And when I told it to my friend, not only did he freeze, but it was the topic of conversation that night, and so many other nights more.
When I finished talking to him, I will have done about 4 or 5 miles more. And that's when the truck completely shuts off without any apparent reason. The computer did not show any errors and I did not hear any type of noises. There were no knocks or anything that alerted me to a problem. Nothing happened. At that time, the truck was practically new. Obviously, I know it's not impossible for it to fail. But it was very strange that it turned off completely. Engine, lights, dashboard, screen, everything. It basically ran out of energy completely. With the little speed that the truck still had left, I moved a little to the side to clear the route. Which, although there was not much traffic, it was dangerous to be standing in the middle of the road, and especially in absolute darkness. For those who do not know the area, there is not much to describe. There is simply countryside and nothing else. It was then that I turned on one flashlight function beacons, and rested it on the bumper of the trailer. At least like this, would serve as a marker so that no one accidentally bumps into me. Then, I assembled the corresponding beacons and placed them. Finally I turned on an emergency light that I always carry with me to check the truck. But without finding anything, I went to check the engine. I checked the cabin again. I assure you that I checked everywhere. But it was while I was checking the engine for the second time, that I heard the voice of a man who greeted me saying good night. The truth is that it took me so by surprise that I got scared. And when I turned around I found a guy, of approximately I estimate, about 75 years old. Typical field man, nothing strange. I greeted him while shining the flashlight on him. And I comment that the truck had stayed completely without energy, and I had no idea what it could be. He remained silent for a few seconds and told me that it is very common for this type of situation to happen in that place, and that perhaps the engine or the truck did not need to be checked so much. You just have to have a little faith that the truck will start. I immediately laughed and I answered that with faith there are things that are not fixed so easily. I remember this perfectly, because I told him while I was closing the engine hood. This man also smiled, saying that it was not bad to have a little faith and that thanks to it we stay alive. I changed the subject by asking him if he was from the area, and he answered no, that he was actually wanting to get to St. Ignace. I told him that I was also heading towards that place, but that unfortunately the problem was visible and I had no way to do it, otherwise I would be happy to take him. This man thanks me, and insists that I try to start it again. Perhaps we were in for a surprise. So I entered the cabin, and immediately realized that when I turned on the truck, everything was normal. It lighted up the board, I started it and turned on as always. I thought that perhaps some component had overheated and after cooling down everything returned to normality. Through the windshield, I could see this man smiling very happy. And right there I motioned for him to get into the truck. I took out some things that he had in the passenger seat and opened the door for him. Went up thanking me again for my offer to take him to St. Ignace. And just before starting off, I remembered to go look for the beacons and the other flashlight that I had left in the bumper. I got off, I picked up everything, and when I returned to the cabin of the truck, this man, it wasn't there anymore. I assure you that it only took me a few seconds to pick up the beacons and the flashlight, not it was many more than that. And the strangest thing was that, at no time did I hear the door of the truck close. I got out, shining the flashlight in all directions. I went around the truck to the back of it. But this man was no longer there. He had literally disappeared. I remember him telling me his name was Samuel. And I don't know who it was or why he appeared to me that night. What I can tell you is that every day that passes I remember that experience. And I am more sure than ever that the breakdown of the truck, his sudden appearance, and that brief talk we had, somehow everything was related. I told this story several times, but there is one detail that I never told. When I arrived at St. Ignace, before leaving the highway Interstate 75, I braked for a couple of minutes and said, "Well, thank God we made it safely." I opened the passenger door and wished Samuel peace and happiness wherever he is. There was another occasion when I was traveling together to some friends on Interstate 70, more precisely in the section that separates the city of Effingham with the municipality of Vandalia. This is in the state of Illinois. We were returning of carry out a trip in a truck double cabin together to two co-workers. I was driving as usual, and everything was going on complete normality. In principle, I want to make it clear that although we were tired from the trip, none of us had or drank any alcohol. While we came back chatting the most well, and eating some sandwiches accompanied with a little coffee. In reality, it was an almost routine trip at that time of year, and if my memory serves me correctly, what I'm telling you happened in the year 2018. It was around 7:30 in the morning at the end of March and beginning April. It was drizzling a little and the weather had been bad for several days. The matter is that a few miles before reaching the municipality of Vandalia, my coworker, who was in the back seat and the one in charge of serving the coffee, at one point is startled, giving a scream of terror because of what he was observing outside. To his right, on the field, there were two shadows that were accompanying the march of our truck. Immediately my other companion looked and also saw the same thing. At first I didn't believe them, but as they insisted I turned my head a couple of times, but I didn't get to see anything. Instead them two were still amazed by what they were seeing. At a moment given, joined up a third and fourth shadow. I still didn't see anything, but I asked if they wanted me to stop, and the two of them almost simultaneously shouted that no. It wasn't a good idea to do so, so I continued, but only about 2 or 3 minutes later, I saw those shadows myself, or at least one of them. First on my right side about field, then it disappeared and finally the three of us managed to see them.
I know this may be somewhat difficult to believe, and if someone came to me and told me so, I would find it difficult to believe, but I swear on my daughters that it was just as I am telling you.
After of what the three we spotted these shadows, in front of the truck in the middle of the road. It appears to us a woman, dressed completely in black. She was standing and completely motionless. Her face was completely dark, and she not were observed any type of traits, and had a height of at least 6 feet. Was really impressive. First I thought about stopping so as not to run over her. But my companions desperately shouted for me to continue and not to stop for anything in the world. According to them, what we were seeing was a witch. So, I simply accelerated and after maneuvering I avoided her and we continued the trip. I remember that I looked in the rearview mirror and I didn't see her anymore. It was already dawning, so I should have seen her. I swear that my heart almost popped out for the mouth. That day was one of the scariest moments I've ever had in all my life. I don't know if it was the adrenaline of the moment or the fear that generated in us seeing this witch, being or entity. That when I realized the speedometer was reading 150 miles per hour. Now let's listen to Luke's story.
About 10 years ago or so, I was parked at a stop in Dallas, and I ran into an old colleague and friend of mine. I was standing in front of the truck, ready to leave, and he came up amazed, greeted me, and said, "Lucas, if I tell you what happened to me, you are not going to believe me." I asked him, "Why, Marius? What was it that happened to you?" I have known Marius for 30 years. We are both old-school truck drivers, so what he tells me, or what I tell him, will always be the truth. I send him my regards. If he is listening to the story, surely at this moment he must be doing some trip. Well, he comes over and tells me, "If I tell you, you're going to believe me." Truth? You're not going to think I'm crazy. And I tell you, "No, man, how can I think that? Tell me what happened to you." And he tells me, "Well, I'll tell you. You know I was coming on Interstate 20, about 10 minutes from the gas station Exxon, which is right in front of Bar B Travel Plaza. And I tell him, if I know the area, well, those who know the route know which one I'm referring to. So he continues with the story and tells me, well, I was going 60 miles per hour. At 60 was going. And you know that I look to the side and I see a huge dog, black, running alongside me. But I don't lie, Lucas. I was going 60 miles per hour, and the dog, or what for me was a dog, was running alongside me at the same speed. I couldn't believe it, and when he turns his face and looks at me, the dog had the eyes red and shiny, like 2 flashlights. Imagine the fear that gave me, that I accelerated to 70. But the more I accelerated, more faster ran the dog, and I couldn't pass it. At a given moment, this huge dog, black, exceeds the speed of the truck, and I see that at about 50 or 60 yards away, he stops dead, sits on the side of the road, and waits until I pass. When he passed by, I swear I prayed to all the saints there were and that they existed, and because of the fear I didn't even think to look at him. Luckily, after that, he didn't follow me anymore. Well, after he told me what had happened to him, we continued talking for a few more minutes, asking how the family was and things like that, and there the topic remained. 2 months later, I was coming down that same highway, Interstate 20, and in front of me was another truck, a Volvo 2010. It was already around 10 at night, from what I remember, and I was coming calmly behind the Volvo, without any rush. Until, at a given moment, I see a black lump come out of the side of the road and start chasing the truck that was coming in front of me. I swear, and I'm not lying to you, but this animal was huge. And what surprised me the most was that, although we were going about 50 miles per hour, this animal was going at the same speed. I wondered inside myself what animal it was that runs so fast, until I remembered what my friend Marius had told me. Equally, I believe that the truck driver who was in front of me did not see him or did not realize that he had this animal next to him, because at no time did he speed up or slow down. He always stayed at the same speed. After about 5 minutes running alongside the truck, this dog or wolf, I honestly don't know what it was, stopped and waited for me to pass. When I passed by and looked at it more closely, its eyes shone like 2 flashlights and were completely red. On top was huge, the bug this, but luckily for me, he didn't chase me. He stayed there until I lost it of sight. To time when I meet Marius again, and I told him that I had also seen that dog that was chasing him, he tells me, "You saw that he wasn't lying to you." The truth is, I don't know what that animal was, or if it was actually an animal. What is true is that that road is full of cemeteries.
Thank you for reaching the end of this video. I would love to know what you think about these 3 stories, and if something similar has ever happened to you. I send a big hug to all of you and have a great day.